97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco. Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
You know, we recognize the ability of the roster that's put together right now. And I think we have the ability to do something really special with this group, but it's going to take a lot of hard work.
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4 time now, being brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. It's powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Check out the new Inside the Birds podcast tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Right now, Andrew DiCecco. Plenty more on this Eagles-Giants matchup, by the way, as Andrew just tweeted out about a minute or so ago before he jumped on. The Eagles have protected the following practice squad players: Jamon Brown, Jason Kroom, Michael Jacquet, and T.Y. McGill. So those guys cannot be picked up by other teams. Lot to dive into today. Plus, we gave Andrew a little bit of a homework assignment last night for the Maction games, the Thursday and Friday games. Different players that you should keep an eye on in these college football games because, quite frankly, the NFL season is flying by us, and we're going to be in the draft season here before we know it. So give you another reason to kind of pay attention to these college football games because, quite frankly, college football and NFL football is the only sports we got right now. There is no hockey. There is no baseball. There is no hoops. I guess if you're a soccer fan, you got that going on. But let's bring them in. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. Here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew, what's up, man?
What's going on, Mike? I wouldn't necessarily call that a homework assignment. This is something that I pretty much follow all year round. But, yeah, excited to dive in.
A little labor of love. We know, yes. We're looking forward to that portion as well. So when we're watching these Maction games tonight, you can give us a little bit more insight on it. Today, Eagles coordinators spoke. We'll get some information on that. I want to get your thoughts on this, though. We talked about the head coaches in the NFC East to kind of open up today's show. We got a poll question up. People are voting. And which of these coaches do you trust the most in the second half? And it seems like an easy answer, except for you got two Super Bowl winners with McCarthy and Peterson. You got Rivera, who has been to a Super Bowl, and then there's Joe Judge, who seemingly, has his team kind of going in the right direction. So if I was to say this coach can turn their team around in the second half, which guy do you trust most to do it?
Well, the answer is Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson's been there, done that. And as we talked about yesterday, he's someone that the team tends to rally behind. They finish strong. They play their best football in November and December. The proof is in the pudding with Doug Peterson. That's an obvious answer for me. I do think that Ron Rivera deserves a little bit of credit there. I think he's going to do a tremendous job turning around the Washington team and making them a contender, an NFC East contender late in the season here, given his coaching pedigree. But the answer is Doug Peterson. Yeah,
and you mentioned Rivera. I feel like he's like a safe pick. He's kind of the guy because Washington has been in the NFC East race about halfway through the last couple of years, but you never believed in them, I think, because that organization. Can Rivera be the guy who changes the perception of that organization and keeps them, even though at 2-7, keeps them 2-6, I guess they are, keep them in it?
Well, yeah, I mean, despite their 2-6 record, he's kind of already started to do that. He's made them, I think Washington, as they're perceived around the NFL, I think they're looked at as a team that's kind of on the rise, a team that has a strong defense there. Their structure, which I think is important, it's been lacking in recent years. There's just more of a, I think they're, for lack of a better word, I think they're taken a little bit more seriously now that there's, a name brand coach, there's a defensive, a mindset there, and there's some pieces on offense. I really, really like running back Antonio Gibson. Terry McLaurin, of course, is, known to, work the Eagles over on occasion. So, I mean, there's some offensive pieces there that I think that they can build around.
What do you think has gone on with McCarthy? Is it the team's not very good, the injuries, or that McCarthy, was aided by having Aaron Rodgers out there?
Well, Mike McCarthy was, a lot of his mindset and his coaching style was very antiquated, especially, during his latter years in Green Bay. he took a year off, and he readily, admitted that he really bought into analytics and was trying to, get up to speed with the new age of the NFL. And his style is of the old guard, and it's really not. I really haven't seen much innovation from him this year. Obviously, he does have that Super Bowl win, but yeah, a lot of his accolades are directly tied to Aaron Rodgers, and you could argue that having Aaron Rodgers in his prime, they should have had more Super Bowl victories. So I think there's something to be said for that. I just think that he's not necessarily caught up with the current the current landscape of the NFL and showing.
We were having a fun hypothetical with this question before. Who do you think outside of Doug Peterson, so Rivera, McCarthy, Judge, would do the best job with the Eagles' current roster?
That's a good question. The Eagles have a lot of veterans there, and I think someone like Ron Rivera would really resonate with that locker room. Down the road, I think that there's something there with Joe Judge coming from, he has the Alabama pedigree and he has the Patriots background. So he does have a winning mindset. He knows what it takes to win, and he's been around some hard-nosed guys in Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. So I do think that there's structure there with the Giants. And you kind of saw him discipline Golden Tate last week. He came off a little hard. I think in training camp he was making guys run and things like that. And I'm sure, raised a lot of eyebrows from the veteran players. But, I do think that he has the kind of emotional intelligence and can, kind of get through to players and get the best out of them.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. The Eagles have beat the Giants 8 times in a row, including a couple of weeks ago, 22-21. They've also won 12 of 13 in this series. So, after watching that first game here, does this game have the feeling that maybe time is up on this impressive streak?
Well, I kind of liken this game to, if you remember back in the 2017 season when Nick Foles took the reins over, and he played well, but it was kind of a shootout with the Giants, and I believe it was Darby and Jalen Mills. They were really victimized by these sluggos and double moves from the wide receivers, and the game was closer than it should have been. I think Corey Graham, if I believe, made the game-ending play in the back of the end zone. But nevertheless, I think it's going to be one of those games that's a little bit closer than many expect. Like I was saying yesterday, the Giants have the momentum. They played 2 hard-fought games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then, of course, on Sunday they played another tough game. And I think that there's something to be said for momentum. And while the Eagles had the bye week, which is always, it's always good to have that rest, there's always that possibility that they come out flat. So, they can't take the Giants lightly, and they certainly can't come out playing like they did against Dallas.
Right, because if you remember the game a couple of weeks ago, they're a drop pass away from really winning that game, and who knows, the Giants are maybe the team in first place in this game.
Exactly, and that also has to be on their mind. They're coming in here, coming off 2 hard-fought games that they. Obviously they split that, but I'm sure it's in their mind. Hey, we were a play away from beating this team, and let's build off of what we've been doing, and let's take it to them. And the Eagles are going to have to come out. Hopefully they really did some brainstorming and assessment over the bye week, and they're going to come out and be a little bit more innovative on offense, because they're really going to have to, because the Giants seem like a hungry team right now, and they can't be taken lightly.
Where do you see the biggest hole for New York that the Eagles can look to take advantage of? Is it the opposite side of Bradbury?
Yeah, you said it. That's spot on, Hunter. It's the opposite side of Bradbury, and I also think that there's going to be opportunities for Dallas Goedert to take advantage of that linebacking core. It doesn't run well, and they're really not adept in pass covers. They're more of those downhill type of runners. They defend the run fairly well, but I do think that there's going to be opportunity to exploit that second side. Isaac Yiadom is their second corner, and he really had a poor showing on Sunday, and there's going to be opportunity to really stretch the field there. So that's something to watch.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of slides into, Travis Fulgham ranks 5th among NFL wideouts with 87 yards a game. The only guys better right now, Davante Adams, DK Metcalf, Julio Jones, Stephon Diggs, and then Fulgham. So, I guess getting Fulgham or Jalen Reagor matched up in this situation is having both those guys was something they didn't have the last time they played.
Yeah, and you're going to have, you're going to have Dallas Goedert there. You're going to have Rager, who I'm interested to see how they get him involved because he can bring so many different, so much diversity to the offense as far as being able to stretch the field, being able to take the ball on jet sweeps and create yards that way. Also on screen passes, he just adds another layer to that offense. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. He can certainly exploit that second corner. And Fulgham, like you said, Fulgham's going to have his opportunities as well. I mean, they have the pieces there to really make that second half surge.
We all see the stats with Fulgham, as Mike Gill even just pointed them out. But do you think he's at the point now where other D coordinators look at him and absolutely put their number one corner following him all game long?
I mean, I think you have to when you look at the results. I mean, he's been putting together solid performances, and against some pretty formidable defenses. When you look at what he did against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and Travis Fulgham's the real deal. And defensive coordinators, if they're smart, they're gonna get their top corner and they're gonna try and slow him down and make the other guys beat you. But then again, you do that, and all of a sudden you have a healthy Jalen Rager, and you have Dallas Goedert, and you're going to have Miles Sanders back. They do have – this is the version of the offense that the Eagles envisioned when in training camp, and they're finally going to have most of their guys available. So, I mean, you can put your top corner on Travis Fulgham, but you're going to leave a lot of other guys available to make plays.
Think about that statement and ask yourself, is this team 3-4-1, which isn't all that great, without Travis Fulgham?
Yeah, I mean, Travis Fulgham. They don't win the Niners game likely without Travis Fulgham, for example. I mean, he's made so many critical plays in pretty big spots that they don't move the chain. Like against Dallas, for example, there was nobody else that was making plays. If you look down the stat sheet, I think maybe the next leading receiver was 15 yards, and Fulgham had 76. He was the only one that was kind of generating any semblance of offense for the Eagles, and there's a comfortability there with Carson Wentz, and he adds so much more to the offense. And having that big receiver that can he doesn't let's not get this, don't get it wrong, he's not a burner, but he can run and he can go up there and make those contested catches, and that's what that offense really needed. They thought that they were going to get that from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Obviously, that hadn't been the case, but they kind of lucked into, credit the scouting department, their scout Jim Ward for really, I believe he had a third round grade on Travis Fulgham. So I mean, they kind of unearthed a gem there.
You mentioned J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. What is next for him? Is he a plan? Is he a part of the organization, or is they just kind of inclined to say we just missed and got to time to move on? Just like let's set or like do they try to salvage this thing?
Well, I mean, reading the tea leaves, Mike, you look at the past, look at the snap counts. I mean, there's times where I believe Quez Watkins played as much or maybe a snap or two less than Jay Jaw. You're looking at, John Hightower, despite his struggles, he's, playing at least a dozen more snaps than Jay Jaw in some instances. And he played 5 snaps last week. Despite everything, he's just not seeing the field. So that, to me, tells me that the Eagles are like, they know what they have in him. They know what he can and can't bring to the offense. He can, contribute a catch or two, but he's not what they envisioned. And, when talk about Alshon Jeffrey coming back, possibly J-Jaw could be a healthy scratch.
Wow. Think about that. I mean, and it's not like crazy to hear, but a second-round pick in such a deep wide receiver draft, and he could be a healthy scratch. I mean, that's a pretty big indictment on it. It's funny. I was just watching something about the Pac-12 returning. No, it was a video compilation of the Oregon-Stanford wild games they've had. And here's J-Jaw catching the game-winning touchdown in the front of the end zone and a tough catch. It's like, man, where did it go wrong for this kid? When you watch him, did you like him coming out of the draft? Are you surprised? Because I know you do a lot of draft study, so you probably had a thought on him coming in. Are you surprised that he has turned into the player that he has become here? Is it this system that doesn't fit, or was he just not a good player?
Yeah, I get asked that a decent amount. I'm not really surprised with what I've seen from J. Joe. I wasn't particularly high on him coming out of college. I had him as a fifth-round pick. I had him graded as a fifth-round pick.
Wow.
So I was a little surprised to see the Eagles take him where they took him. In that second, he didn't fit what the Eagles were looking to do on offense. For example, I really liked Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver who ended up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I liked him. The Steelers got good value with him. I thought he fit the Eagles offense a lot more than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I thought with that second-round pick, I would have personally went with Juan Thornhill. I thought that they could have used to upgrade the safety spot there and got a guy like Deontay Johnson later in the draft, or DK Metcalf, of course, but we're not going to rehash that. That's been kind of run into the ground. But, I mean, there were so many other options. But, Deontay Johnson's just one of the options that I would have went with there. He was a classic big-bodied receiver that thrived against these smaller Pac-12 corners. And, he never really generated much separation. I didn't really see the explosiveness from him. I just didn't. I didn't see it. It was a really puzzling pick, in my opinion.
Well, hear me out. This might sound crazy, but is it possible that he goes elsewhere and he can actually contribute based off of some sort of attributes? You saw it happen with Sidney Jones. You saw it happen with Rasul Douglas. You're seeing it happen with Nelson Aguilar, although you saw success with Aguilar here at one point. Does he have any attributes that you think can work elsewhere if it doesn't work here?
That's a very interesting question, Hunter, because there's countless examples of guys who went on elsewhere and made plays for teams. I do think he's going to get another opportunity. Look, he's a young kid. What is he, 23, 24 years old, former second-round pick. He's got that pedigree. There's things to work with there. I mean, another team will like to use him as a big-bodied possession receiver in the red zone. Sometimes it comes down to what's between the ears. You can have is he a confident player? Is he grasping the route tree? Is he taking to his coaching? Is he responding to what Aaron Moorhead is kind of preaching to the receiver room? All these different things. Is it translating to the football field? Because obviously it's not. So you can have all the ability in the world, but if you're not picking up, the finer nuances of the position, it doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter how you're utilized, doesn't matter what system you're in. You're always going to put a limit on what you're able to do.
I guess it's fair to say, question Moorhead a little bit, but then you got Fulgham who doesn't help that argument all that much.
Yeah, Fulgham. I mean, you've seen John Hightower have some nice moments. Obviously, there's certain areas where he needs to clean up in his game as far as ball tracking, but that, like I said, that's very fixable. Aaron Moorhead will probably run that, remind him of that, show him that, have him work on that throughout the offseason so that it doesn't become an issue anymore. Greg Ward, it's hard to say he's developed. He's kind of the steady presence that he was last season. But, yeah, Fulgham's a classic example of someone who really just ascended seemingly out of nowhere. But, he's under Aaron Moorhead's tutelage, so there's something to be said for that.
I do want to, before we get your thoughts on some of the players to watch in these college games, which I'm really looking forward to, by the way, because I know that you'll take a deep dive on these things. Today, Press Taylor was pressed more or less on how hard they coach Carson Wentz. And I don't know if you saw the transcript or were able to listen to his press conference today on the Zoom call, but, they asked him, how do you keep Carson Wentz accountable with these mistakes? And it didn't sound like Press Taylor was like, we're really hard on him. It was kind of like a laissez-faire kind of response to me anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it too. And that's really what we've all been kind of predicting. He's friends with Carson. They're close in age. He seemed to, and you look at the results on the field. When Carson when coaches were tough on Carson, when he had a lot of people that were drilling him on his mechanics, like John DiFilippo, who's a fiery coach, you saw a different Carson Wentz. Press Taylor never struck me and doesn't strike me as someone who's going to be that in-your-face, holding someone accountable, making them watch their mistakes and ask them, why do you continuously do this? Why is this happening? Why are you putting the team in jeopardy? He doesn't seem to be that type of presence,
right?
Like someone that can command a room. So I think that's fair to say. I think that's a fair assessment. I don't know if he's getting that tough coaching that someone of his make really needs.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. He does a great job covering both the Eagles, but also when we go to the college game, and especially games like tonight. We got the MAC games tonight. We got a game on Thursday, and we got a couple of games on Friday. So we're going to try to make this a kind of a weekly occurrence with Andrew when we look at some of these MAC games and then some of the games a little bit later on in the week. Who are some of the players that are draftable that you will see in the games on this? Let's start with the Tuesday night games tonight. Let's start there. You got Akron, Ohio, Kent State, Bowling Green, Miami of Ohio, Buffalo. Who are some of the players tonight that you're keeping an eye on?
Ohio running back DeMontre Tuggle. He's a senior. He's explosive. He's a home run threat. He's not a volume runner at 198 pounds, but he had a really good debut last week. I believe he rushed for 79 yards. But he should be utilized more in the passing game this week. Akron is not very proficient on at any level on defense. There's going to be opportunities there for him to really boost those numbers. So that's who I really like in the Akron, Ohio game. But we're looking at the other game tonight, the Kent State Bowling Green game. I really like quarterback Dustin Crum from Kent State. He's not really a household name, but I promise you he's among the most underrated passers in college football. He's really brilliant in the deep passing game. He really takes care of the football. He can extend plays with his legs. His one knock is that he doesn't have great size. He's always 6'3". They list him at 207 pounds. He's going to be a guy to watch there for the Flash. And I really like his receiver, Isaiah McCoy. He's a junior. I believe he goes about 6'3", competes for the football, can make plays on all three levels, had 104 yards last week and a touchdown against Eastern Michigan. So those are two offensive players to watch for Kent State.
All right, tomorrow you got three more: Eastern Michigan, Ball State, Toledo, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Northern Illinois. Which guys tomorrow night should we keep an eye on?
For Ball State, I'm looking at running back Caleb Huntley. He went for 130 yards and 2 scores last week. He's 230 pounds. He's a no-nonsense physical downhill grinder. Really like his game. Cornerback Antonio Phillips is a name to watch for Eagles fans. He's a senior. He's lengthy. He's 6 foot, 191 pounds. Ball hawk, football instincts. He has everything that you look for. He's a gritty corner, and I think that he's really going to see his stock rise in the coming weeks. Eastern Michigan, I really like wide receiver Quinn Williams. What other games do we mention?
You got Central Michigan, Northern Illinois, right?
Central Michigan, linebacker Troy Brown. He's someone who he was a safety. They made him a linebacker. He's a rangy player that's really adept in coverage, moves really well sideline to sideline, good lateral quickness, instinctive player. Made the play of the game last week to end it for them. I like him. I like their defensive tackle Roby Stewart as well. And then we got we have some big games this week. There's Boise State, right?
On Thursday night, it's Colorado State, Boise State. That's the one game Thursday.
Yeah, Boise State. How about this receiver, Khalil Shakir? He had 872 yards receiving with John Hightower as they were the two receivers there. He already has 352 yards and 4 touchdowns through 3 weeks. He's a guy that I really like and someone to keep an eye on. And then we look at the Iowa-Minnesota game later this week. Friday night. The Gophers have my favorite receiver in the draft, Rashad Bateman, and their running back, Muhammad Ibrahim. He rushed for 571 yards and 10 touchdowns already. He's only a junior, though. He's 5'10", 210 pounds, so he can kind of do it all. But he's someone that, based on the season that he's having now, would not surprise me if he entered the draft. And then Cincinnati has one of my favorite pass rushers in the country, and Myjai Sanders. He already has 5 sacks. And the safety, James Wiggins, who has 5 passes defended on the season. So those are two guys. I love Cincinnati's defense. They have a lot of players that are going to be NFL stars.
All right, there you go. So keep an eye on those guys tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. And by the way, some breaking news with the Eagles. Sources are saying that a Eagles coach has tested positive for COVID-19 and that the Eagles will be intensive protocol for COVID this week. All their meetings, sessions will be virtual. That, according to Jeff Mosher. The team can practice together on the field, but will be virtual for all other stuff, getting ready for this Giants. So there you go. You have a bye week, kind of get outside a little bit, and then all of a sudden, bam, here we go. So the news not good around the Eagles. All right, Andrew. Appreciate it, man.
Have a great week, guys.
You do the same. He, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.